Tyrion Lannister and Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, a Game of Thrones with him. Synopsis of the Seven Habits of the Highly Effective People. Stephen R. Conway, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is a staple among the productivity journey of self-help books. It was written over 30 years ago, yet it remains a bestseller, often handed out at offset during company. The key is to success not just the raw content but the framework that Stephen used to present the information. First habit, be proactive. Second, begin with the end in the mind. Put first, think win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Signer, signer guys, sharpen the shop. The habit flow from one to next. The first three are about taking responsibility and your life to achieve your goal. The next three are about effectively working with other people. And final habit is about sustainability of life in pursuit of this goal. While this framework is great, I read this book 10 years ago and I struggle to remember all seven habits. When I remember vivid detail from Gamerson and I first read that book over 15 years ago. If you are the type of person that can remember half of the episode of this but struggle to remember a self-help book, then this post is for you. With this post is you to use Tyrant Lannister as a mnemonic device to help you to better seven habit. If you haven't read the or watched Game of Thrones, I didn't reading this post as there are spoilers ahead. But with the being said, a brief reminder of who Tyrion is. Tyrion is the youngest son of the richest man in the world, and as a dwarf, he is dismissed and disdained by a world that value physical powers over the mental. Actually, is well written, followed collector with whose proclivity for drink and fighting wit made him a fan favorite amongst the Game of Thrones audience. As an imperfect character, he has many ineffective moments in which the seven habits drive him to reign. However, in the best moment, here are the parallel between what he does and what Stephen Conway is trying to express. Habit 1, protect iron mode and sky cells. Habit 1 is about taking responsibility for your life. Proactive people recognize that they are responsible able. They don't blame circumstances, condition, or conditioning for their behavior. They know they can choose their behavior. Reactive people, or on the other hand, often affect their physical environment. They find external sources to blame for their behavior. If it's good, they feel good. If it isn't, it affects their attitude and performance when they blame the weather. Being proactive is foundation upon which is the other habit relay. The dictionary definition of being proactive is taking action to control your future. But Stephen Convey used it mean that you are responsible for your action and not a victim of other people's action. Is not focused on your ability to control the outcome, but rather on ability to control yourself. Reactive people think in the opposite way, always blaming her circumstances or other poor behavior. Let look at some cases in which Tyrant was both proactive and reactive. Early in the books, Tyrant was captured and thrown into the sky cells. In the Tyrant could have sat and waited for this brother to come rescue him, but instead he chose to proactively secure his own freedom. Even when the jailer Maud beat him, he refused to let Maud control his responsibility. In the TV series, viewers watch Tyrant work harder to maintain his composure and stay in control of his responsibility. Have you ever witnessed a situation at work where one person get frustrated and raises their voice, and then someone else matches their tone and the situation escalates? Eventually things devolve and no one walks away happy. Imagine how different it would be if they had acted like Tyrion and with mode. Throughout my career, I often coached people on finding the reasonable response to an unreasonable situation. This is Tyrion in the nutshell. Now Tyrion doesn't always act the way. It was not acting this way that led to his initial downfall. In a particular, Tyrion family was able to elect a reactive, non-proactive response. Joffrey, his nephew, could easily provoke a reaction out of Tyrion Those reactions lead to being a jailed and sentenced to that. It is difficult to remain in control with people you have history with, which is why family get together can be so stressful. This is probably why words and factor were so much more effective than tyrants when it come to Joffrey when trying to avoid reactive behavior. Picture tyrants reacting to Joffrey, it ruined his life, and reactive behavior can ruin yours. Don't allow someone else's action to control your behavior when thinking of proactive behavior. Picture tyrants escalating the skull cells when presented with difficult situations. Take control and create the future you want. Ideally, one where you survive to fight another day. Habit 2. Begin with the end in the mind. Defending King Landing. Habit 2 is the ability to invention in your mind the what you cannot at present see with your eyes. It is based on the principle that all things are created twice. There is a mental creation, a physical sound creation. The physical creation for the mental. Just as building for a blueprint. Stephen Conway have it all build upon one to another. Proactive people have the drive to seek improvement. The second habit begin with the end. Ensure that one energy focused on the goal. Without a goal, you are likely to aim less and unsuccessful. Why the other sound straightforward? Many people do not start with the end goal in mind. They and their hard work never create the future they want. Once you set a goal, the next step are create a plan, mental creation, and then execute it, physical creation. For the second habit, the best metaphor is the defense of a king landing, also known as the Battle of Blackwater. Tyrion proactively took it upon himself to lead the defense of the city despite constant hindrances from the Joffrey and Caesar. Caesar. Let's view the from the angle of the second habit. Set the goal, create the plan, execute. Tyrant's goal. Don't die. This was a simple goal but very motivational. If you professional world have a same stakes, I think we find it too much easier to create alignment across team. Tyrant plan. Find a way to defend against vastly superior number. Once a tyrant set the goal, he needed to plan that negated extent superior number. Tyrant bowed over map, divided uh, various, and conspired with the pyromancers. He determined where the stances would attack and how he would compete against superior forces. Setting the river on the fire, the wildfire execution. Do down your armor. Finally, the reader favorite part, the battle itself. The second habit is not complicated. Being proactive without a goal isn't going to win the war. Having a goal but no plan won't help you overcome your enemies. And having a plan that you can't execute is likely to sign a insanity. To apply the second habit in your life, picture tyrants trying to shed a lie, powering our map and fighting on the beach. Find your king landing and defend it. Put first thing first, tyrant and paisally. Habit 3. Exercise of independent will toward becoming principle centered. Habit 3 is a practical fulfillment of habit 1 and habit 2. Habit 1 says you are the creator, you are in charge. Habit 2 is the first mental creation based on the imagination, the ability of invention, what you can become. Habit 3 is the second creation, the physical creation. Proactive people start by choosing a goal. Habit 2 and habit 3 is about taking your first step. I worked with leaders who were proactive and they know their goals but poorly prioritize their time. Exactly like Ned Stark. He served in the King Landon and immediately began making waves. He didn't prioritize cultivating a solid base and in the end was betrayed by the city guard, the small council, the king. He tried to take a shortcut and his neck was cut short as a result. In the early book, Tyrant was waivers between being both effective and ineffective. There was two key moments when he became hand of the king. Demonstrated he was a keen believer in the fourth habit of the putting first thing first. Tyrant replaced the commander of the city guard. Tyrant know that Ned, the former hand of the king, and had by the commander of the city guard. This betrayal came to crucial moment was primarily the reason Ned died. Ned entirely escaped gaining of the elegance of the city guard and assumed that they would follow him because of the moral. While Ned was expectantly proactive habit when he entirely failed to habit 2 and 3. Having a plan and executing it is a correct order. Tyrant was much more thoughtful and he replaced the commander with Borer. Loyal, mercenary compassion. The theoretic of the event were great because the audience had no reason to expect this outcome. The commander had not done anything against Tyrant. Tyrant was proactively fixing the most important problem first. Tyrant, Tyrant identified loyalties among the small council. Tyrant planted information about the secret plan where the other members of the small council. The rumor was something that a rich rival would be interested in, but each of the three had slightly different version of the same rumor. When Cersei confronted about him about the rumor, Tyrant immediately know which council member was source of the leak. I absolutely loved watching this play out. It was a brilliant writing. It was also a perfect example of the putting first thing first. This is probably the most brilliant maneuver Tyrant ever made, and he followed it up with a blunder, and that nearly ruined him. Tyrant emotion got the better of him, and he fixed to utilize Howard to Tyrant reacted by throwing partially in the prison instead of using him as a knowing spy. Knowing that physical was a leak, Tyrant could have fed him with the information of mislead Cersei. He wasn't thinking what his end goal in this is what rather than letting himself be a reactive mental image. We like Tyrant with the commander of the city guard and small council do first thing first, let your get behind the net. Head for think win Tyrant is saga. Head for out the sing a cooperative arena, not a competitive one. Win-win is a frame of the mind and heart constantly seek mutual benefit in all human interaction. Win-win means agreement or a solution are mutually beneficial and satisfying. We both get in a eat to pie and taste pretty darn and good. A win-win situation is a one in which you seek out a solution that allow both parties to get ahead. People often view situation as a zero-sum game. One party win, one party lose. Stephen Conway disagree with the mindset of instead challenging, do you do better? What better? Example is where win-win situation then Brian Widen convinces the Hill tribe to fight for him. Tyrion had just escaped from the iron accomplished by the Baron. The Hill tribes abused them, led by the Saka. Yet Tyrion turned the table. He didn't just bribe them to let him live, he also convinced them to join him as a personal vanguard. The tribesmen got the weapon and plundered the fort. The tyrant got his own many army. The best example of win-win I have seen professional involvement between product team and my team. The product team wanted more feature, but my team didn't have the win the bet. Instead of fighting, the product team reprioritize it recruiting to hire more platform team members. At the time this blew my mind, I fully prepared for a fight, but instead I got a larger team. The platform team got its future. Had fight. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Iron and the Night Watch. Advice about most people listen which the intent to reply, not to understand. You listen to yourself as you're prepared in your mind what you are going to say, the question are you going to ask. You filter everything you hear throughout the life experience, your frame of reference, you check what you hear against the autobiography and see how to measure up. Consequently, you decide prematurely for the other person means before they finish communicating. One of the things that made Tyrant so formidable, even give his speech teacher, was willingness to seek understanding. When I think seek first to understand, I visualize Tyrant heading not to wall of the very beginning of the book. He wanted to see for himself with Night Watch all the time. He spent time talking to Mormont, Aemon, Engine, and Jon Snow, all the quest of the understanding. He didn't try to push an agenda on them to make changes. He simply there we understood. He used to experience with Mormont to establish trust with his son, Jorah Mormont. Later, he used to experience with Jon Snow to provide advice to Daenerys. My point is that tyrants sought knowledge and understanding first, and it paid off the road. My point is to tyrants sought knowledge and understanding first. I strongly agree with Stephen Conway's fifth habit, and I think it is the most important. People constantly fail to seek understanding, and in the debates they are just waiting for their chance to speak. I was guilty for this. In my experience, the vast majority of conflict could have been avoided if both parties sought understanding instead of trying to push their own agendas. When they are in tough situation at work, ask yourself, have you walked the wall like a tyrant? And you are at home, King's Landing, casting judgment from afar. Siren gaze, tired and broad. Habit 6 about a creative cooperation. It is teamwork, open mindedness, and the adventure of finding new solution to old problem. But it doesn't happen on its own. It proceeds, and through the process, people bring all the personal experience and expertise to the table. In a in a synergy, you aren't looking for someone who is a polar opposite of you, but rather someone who complement your weakness while adding to a most critical strength. Throughout the book, George and Martin repeatedly collect together and demonstrated the power of synergy. Example of the synergetic pairs include Jimmy Lannister, the Benny of Tarth, Stannis Baratheon and Davos Seaworth, Hodor and Bronn Stark, Jon Snow and Tormund, Arya Stark and Hound, and Tyrion and Bronn. Let's focus on the Tyrion and Bronn as they are the example of synergy the Tyrion created in order to advance his career aspiration. Tyrion was a well-read, smart and quick with politics, money and strategy. However, his physical stature made his ability to combat. His synergetic pairing was with Voron. Voron was a ruthless warrior for more instant winning and let oh yeah, he was physical stature with ability. His synergetic pair was Voron. Voron was a ruthless warrior. With Voron at his Tyrant was able to presently walking into risky situation that otherwise would have proven fatal for him. In professional setting, it is easy to hire people who have the same skill as you instead of hiring against a weakness. I think this is because humans have a tendency of artificially inflate other people's worth if they share our traits or value. However, when building a team, you need to think about the strength and weakness, especially as they relate to problem are you facing. Ah, wow, nice start, nice start. Sharpen the shaw, tyrant and sign. Advertisement is about preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have. It means having a balanced program of self renewal in your areas of life physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. What retroactive activities did Tyrant seek outside his role that made him effective? If you haven't guessed already, the obvious metaphor of the habit would be Tyrant relationship. Tyrant fought most of the battle with his mind, meaning that his restoration need to be a physical and emotional arena. But I'm going to detail that just sure was about Tyrant needed to balance out of the rest of the point is that everyone need a counterbalance in their life that enable them to bring the best self to work. Early in the career, it was a workaholic, and I throw more and more hour into my job because so much of my mental stability was wrapped on my conflict at work would eat away at me. I struggled to maintain the other six habits in my daily behavior because it was mentally drained all the time. My advice to or everyone, regardless of where you are in your career, is that find something outside of your work and you can become truly passionate about. It could be a partner, a pet, a competitive drag, and a racing. Anything that just that is not your job. You will find it infinitely easier to let go for things at work and remain cool and collected. In a face of unreasonable situation, mental image and find your share. Wrap up. Both the Seminar for Highly Effective People and Game of Thrones are classic books for a reason. Stephen Conway books is Imparent Wisdom and George R.R. books are highly memorable. The combination of two would be a memorable book for a wisdom. The blog post is basically the spark note of the book. Be proactive. Don't be like a tyrant with job free, allowing others to control your action. Begin with the end of mind. What is king landing in your feet? Put first the thing first. Be like tyrant and the small council rooting the traitors before they could betray. Win-win. Stop thinking of situation as a win-lose. Get saga to work. Seek first to understand. Walk the walk before making decision. Sign a gaze. Complement your weakness with pro. Sharpen the shop. What a she. How do you rejuvenate your mind and body? If you enjoyed reading this post, let me know. Is there popular book? Thank you. Have a nice day. It was all good. trading. How much? Over 20 minutes. Thank you. Meet you tomorrow.